Alright y'all, as you can tell, this is a little bit different here. And let me explain a little bit. We are not obviously in Virginia. I made a goal, I'm pumping gas at Buc-ee's here. I made a goal of selling $250,000 this year. And one of the strategies that we have is to not shut the store down like I did last year. I shut the store down a bunch. Whenever I'm traveling, whenever my family's traveling, we shut the store down. The goal is to do that 0 times up until maybe Christmas time 2025. So I've been gone for 3 days. We'll talk about that a little bit in this video. I basically went down to do some sourcing down in Florida, and my family stayed at home and my wife did the shipping. So I'm going to show you some comps. I'll start with these Doc Martens right here. I think they sold for around $110, something like that. You're seeing the picture plus shipping. All these things would have been shipped by my wife, and if my wife goes on vacation with me, you know, my family, then we're gonna have somebody else come in and help. Right now that means Jess, who is in charge of our live selling setups and shipping and stuff like that, and she's been coming in about 1 day a week lately, but she's been sick. So my wife shipped, and boy did she yell at me. She called me up and she said, "You have got to get a SKU system. This is idiotic." Because she couldn't find everything, but she called me and I told her where it was all at. So we're gonna get into this a little bit, and we're gonna do some Q&A today as well. I'm gonna answer the questions you guys put on my Instagram and or my Facebook. We're gonna start off with a doozy here. I'm just reading them in order. Randy asked the question, "Hi Kevin, now that we're coming into tax season, I know the majority of your sourcing comes from garage sales. How do you show proof of what you spend at each sale for tax purposes?" All right, let me start with this. First of all, obviously I'm not an accountant. Boy, that gets tired quick. But you asked me what I do, so I'm gonna tell you what I do. And there's, you know, the ongoing debate of accrual method versus cash method. I am a heavy advocate of the cash method. And I essentially have a bank account that is dedicated every single time I take cash out of that bank account. The only time I take cash out of that bank account is for cost of goods. So my record of cost of goods is my record of cash withdrawals from that specific bank account for sourcing. So that is how I keep track of it. Now, and people say, well, if you don't have a receipt or if you don't write it down, I mean, let's face it, writing something down, is that really proof? You know, it's a record of it. So that's the method that I use, and I'm very meticulous about it. You know, having that separate bank account and dedicating different things, it makes the accounting so much easier. That's how I do it. I do not track every single item every single time I sell it on the back end or the front end, inventory, all that. I use the cash method. And I guess I will say something about my reseller Genie because I'm so passionate about it. Listen, there are so many people give me messages every day. Thank you so much for turning me on to these folks. And it really, if you are scaling your business or a business of any size, you know, to automate this stuff will make your business grow. There is cost to it, of course, and you got to weigh those options. But for folks who are serious about this, you know, you got to have something in place. And there's a lot of folks who have something in place, and it's not my reseller Genie. But if you don't, you struggle with that kind of stuff and you need help with it, go check them out, myresellergenie.com, code Commonwealth, you get 15% off. I almost forgot here. I'm supposed to be talking about what sold to, like my normal videos. I sold a GE 8-track player, one of the portable ones. I think they're called Power Sounds or something like this. You get the ones in good cut that have cool colors, and you get good money for them. And the gray one or the black one, those actually go for okay money. I paid $5 for one, and it sold for $50 plus shipping. It was tested. My wife shipped it out. I should probably mention that real quick before I get into the rest of these questions and some other things that sold. She tried to find all the stuff that had sold. I had left. I shipped everything that I possibly could ship before I left. And I was gone for 3 days, so we have 2 days shipping. So she shipped about a day and a half's worth of stuff, which is what I'm talking about on this video right here. So I told her, I said, well, why didn't you just call me to begin with? She's like, well, you know, you have stuff organized by type. I figured I could find it. I'm like, yeah, but there's always exceptions to the rule. And so she had a list of things she had to go find. This was one of them. She's like, I looked in the electronics bin and it wasn't there. That electronics bin is awesome, but I put smaller electronic things in there. This was kind of borderline. It was in the eBay cave. She found it in a second. Next question comes from my buddy Matt. I guess I should explain. I got off the interstate. Sometimes I just get sick and tired of driving on the interstate and just want to take a country road. So I found a route that's going to take me about 5 to 10 minutes longer over the next hour and a half. But man, the scenery is beautiful. I am somewhere in Georgia. I'm not quite sure where. But what is your this comes from my buddy Matt. What is your best and worst performing selling category on eBay? Matt, this might surprise you. It might surprise a lot of people. I don't have any idea. I'm not a numbers cruncher. I go through individually from time to time and crunch numbers on certain things, just individually, and that's all I do. I don't know what my best category is. I don't even care. I know that's not the information you're going to get from all the smart resellers out there. That's me. I just love picking up what I pick up, and I love, there's a car coming, and I can tell from my buy costs versus what's coming in and all the deductions and stuff that goes through it that I'm making money. And I know I'm making money. And if I take these questionable items that I buy all the time and see the ASP and the sell-through rate, I'll calculate it out and I know I'm making money on those. So I have no idea. I would probably guess that kind of 80s nostalgia is one of my higher categories and clothing is one of my lower, certainly ASP type items. But at the same time, I pick up the clothing that I like. I know shoes aren't a high selling category for me as well. I love selling electronics. There's an example right there. I'd love to go through the numbers. Even though the return rate is a little high, the sell-through rate on them for me is amazing. Take VCRs, for instance. That is something that is, I mean, I think I have like 2 or 3 VCRs listed right now, and I sell, you know, who knows, 50 a year. They just don't sit around that long. I love testing them and whatever, so I don't dig into those numbers. Let me know if you do in the comments. Let me know if you know your top categories and all that. I know most sellers do. I don't, and I don't really care to. So there's your answer. I sold a coffee mug. Some of you will be like, haven't you sold all these out? I thought I sold them too. The Black Rifle Coffee Company mugs. We just sold one for $19.90 plus shipping. I didn't know I had it. And so I either put the original quantity in wrong, or there was a return somewhere along the road that didn't get relisted, or the quantity didn't get upped, so I had to relist it. It sold pretty quick, $19.90 plus shipping. Can you see my truck is full right here, y'all? I went sourcing for 3 days. By the way, a big thank you to Dave and to Tina and to Dawn and to Carrie down there for being so hospitable to us. I appreciate it. But that coffee cup was one of those other items my wife was like, what in the world is going on? She's like, you have a place for coffee mugs, yet that coffee mug wasn't in that place. What are you doing? I said, I know. The reason it wasn't is because it was multi-quantity. We had like 30 of them. And so I put it in a different place. My daughter loves donkeys, so I figured this could be a twofer. I could film a clip here and then go over there and film an ending to a Commonwealth picker video. All the donkeys are staring at me now. Any rate, Sarah sells smalls. She says, I saw a video where a parent asked, are you Mr. Brown? And I was at a garage sale of a parent of a former student, and they asked, and I said, yeah. And I'm wondering if you miss anything about being a teacher, and is being a teacher part of the inspiration for your channel? Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of things I miss about teaching and coaching. You know, getting a kid's mind to kind of click on something and get interested in something that I'm interested in is really cool. And building something as a team, as a coach, is something that I've missed. I've incorporated that into what I do. I collaborate with a lot of folks, Team Up, the Trash to Cash podcast, Dibdit.com, all these different spin-offs are all collaborations. So yeah, there's plenty of things I miss, and I just enjoy them. But shoot, I gotta be honest with you, I wouldn't go back because I mean, shoot, I'm just driving around here. I have freedom to do stuff. My wife helps me, my family helps me. We're building things collaboratively, and so I miss it, but not that much. Here's an interesting question here. Triple R Collections, how do you choose the platform that best fits the items that you're listing? With so many selling platforms, it's difficult to decide which one will be the most successful for each item. So I'm not going to speak for everybody out there. I would just say there's a few different models. There's the model of not cross-listing anywhere ever, focusing, and it's probably going to be on eBay for most people. But I do think that there's of course the model of cross-listing everything to every platform available. I don't know. Tell me if anybody does that down below. My guess is that not very many people do that model where it's just everything carte blanche. For me, I'll just tell you what I do, because I've simplified everything. I list on eBay, which automatically lists everything over on Bonanza, so it's automated. I pick and choose when I do list to different platforms that it does fit, but it's pretty limited. For me on District, it's easy, because if I'm talking about DibDit, we're talking about pop culture type items. And we've opened a new marketplace called DibDit Threads, because DibDit's growing so fast. We need to create space for different people to sell. And so clothing will go over there, but it will be selective at the beginning. Hopefully that marketplace blows up like DibDit has, and we can start doing more over there. And that's kind of the reason. This question is kind of the reason that I really, really like that platform. You know, if I'm gonna do live selling of glass, I'm gonna go on Knickknacks and do it, because that's the audience. You've niched down the audience to exactly the type of thing you wanna sell. So if I wanna sell something in a lot, it's gonna go on shopcommons.net, or it's gonna go on eBay, or both, depending on how I do it. So I don't know, it's really gotta fit your model, I guess, but tell me down below what y'all think. Speaking of clothing, we sold another one of those Nike dry fit shirts. My wife, she's like, all the clothing is in these closets, except for these dumb shirts. I'm like, because it's multi-quantity. It's in a box. So this is why apparently I need a SKU system. I'm not doing a SKU system though, not for these. I'll just tell her to call me before she packs stuff up next time. $9.97 plus shipping. I'm gonna do this one in my car here, so I just pulled over. I'm in South Carolina at this point. Part-time person says, what is the hardest part about reselling? Whew. I think that varies for a lot of folks. There's a lot of things I don't like that I wouldn't necessarily say it's the hardest part. Like one of the things I hate to do is answer tons of eBay messages all the time. It's not really hard. I don't like it, probably because I do so much with comments on social media that it's just another piece of that. And it's like, I don't really want to do that. I like the social media commenting back and forth, but I can't keep up, so it's like a stress. So I guess what I would say for me is the overall management of the inventory and balancing it out. How much inventory is coming in versus how much is going out, and storage and moving stuff around. And it used to be something where it would invade my home and affect my family life until we got the 2 sheds. And folks out there were storage units, and then moving storage units to move. It's management of inventory, I think, is one of the hardest things that puts stress onto resellers. And so that's something I've worked with and tried to change. That's why I started with Shop Commons. Part of the reason I wanted to manage the inventory better, to have less stuff around for a longer time period. Well, I'd like to have less stuff around and have the stuff that I have there for shorter time periods. Sold a Care Bear, and it was the raccoon. I can't remember the name of it. I'm gonna put it right here. I cheated, I looked at it. Bright Heart Raccoon, sold for $18 plus shipping. You remember I picked these up for $4 a piece, a ton of them. So I'm not making a ton of money, but I could not pass it up. Question from Carter's Retro Quest. I pulled over here because there was a turkey and it ran away pretty quick. There's a cotton field, picked cotton field back there though. His question is, what kind of setup do you use for filming? What software do you use for editing? I'd love a behind the scenes episode. I've heard you talk about storyboards. That's just a piece of paper where I write what I'm gonna talk about. And he says, would you show us? I have a small, very small channel. I'd love to improve it. So I'm holding in my right hand a GoPro Hero Black 9, and in this hand I have an iPhone. Those are the only 2 things I use. That's it. I know that surprises people. I don't know how to edit on a computer. I hate computers, so I don't. So I use the InShot app. So basically what I do is I airdrop, for lack of a better term, the footage on this camera to my phone, and then I edit it on my phone, and from my phone I load it onto eBay. Or eBay, what am I talking about? YouTube. That's how I do it. I know it's not how most people do it, but it's how I do it. And I'm currently in North Carolina, headed to Virginia. My wife just dropped off Turner at his practice an hour and 10 minutes south of where we live. So she's like, I'm just dropping him off. You'll be here, right? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. So I'm gonna get up there and I'm probably watching practice. And when I am up there, I'll be editing this video on this phone. So it's an interesting setup for me. It works for me. I'm sure it's not as high quality as some folks, but I like it and it's convenient. And we sold a pair of jeans, bread and butter type stuff. We get them in bulk lots when I buy them at garage sales, bag them up. I probably paid $1 for these bullhead jeans. Sold for $15.95 plus shipping, or $14.95 plus shipping. I got a question from Tony here. And Tony says, how long do you let a listing sit on eBay until you revise it and lower your asking price? So Lincoln Lane Treasures on Dibdit. Well, thank you for the question. We appreciate you. I'll tell you what I do. I'm not suggesting it, but I wait at least 200 days before I do anything to it. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it. I'm just telling you what I do. I'm sorry it's really, really loud here. They got a generator going there and a bunch of noise. So, but I always stop at the Strawberry for ice cream, and I see a taco truck. I'm gonna eat some lunch. Sold a Harley Davidson Christmas ornament lot for $19.95 plus shipping. Question from 2 other YouTubers got into my comments down here. Mike Golden State Picker says, what's your golf handicap? I don't keep track of it anymore, Mike. The best I think I ever had it when I was tracking it was a 7. Take it for what it's worth. I'm not bad at it, but not as good as I used to be. And Storage Auction Pirate, he said, are you going to Boss Reseller Remix? No. And I'm not going this year. I went last year. And the biggest thing I'm gonna miss about it this year, besides not seeing Mike Metco, is not seeing you, Storage Auction Pirate. All right, waiting for an order for my burrito over there, and my ice cream is just about done too. So sold a 1995-96 Skybox EXL pack. 1 pack of cards, $26.95. Is it bad that I ate the ice cream first? I couldn't resist. It was gonna melt by the time I got done with the burrito. Don't judge. All right, this is from C. Wilson. We have had problems with buyers returning DVD VCR combos saying they don't work, but when they get back, they work just fine. Any suggestions? This has happened with us the last 3 times I've sold them. Wow, interesting. This has happened to me before, but I bet you it hadn't happened more than 3 times in 20 years to me, so that's a little odd for sure. You could maybe, when you sell one to somebody, say, hey, this is, write them a message, say, this is tested working, I tested it myself. If you have any trouble with something, send me a message. Maybe you can walk them through it. If they're sending you back a working machine, then they probably aren't trying to scam you unless they rented it from you to watch something, or if it's a DVD-R to record something and then send it back. That's pretty rare though. I guess other than communication with them before the item arrives as to what to do if something doesn't work right, then I think that'd be the answer. And make sure you're testing both sides of it, DVD and VCR, and all the different applications for it and all that stuff. So that's my answer. This is a new sale for me. This is a Prime hat. My oldest son actually works for Prime, so that was kind of cool that I came across a Prime hat. And I said, do you know what these sell for? I'm like, can you get them for me? He's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. I was like, you're probably right. Brand new Prime hat sold for $27.55 plus shipping. Hey, another question from Carter. First of all, I finally made it to Virginia, pick up my son from practice, but he's still got about 40 minutes left. So after a 9-hour drive, I get to rest for 40 minutes and then about an hour drive home, a little bit more. Secret Lake Collectibles has a question. What is your work-life balance like? How many hours in a week do you typically work? I would say 20 hours a week, sometimes more in the off season, the non-picking season, probably more on eBay, and maybe 5 or maybe a little bit more on live selling over on Dibdit and Shop Commons and other platforms. And then for social media, probably 30 to 35, depending on what we're doing. That also includes the podcast, Garage Sale Nation, Facebook posting, TikTok, Instagram, and of course YouTube, Commonwealth Flipper, and the Commonwealth Picker channel. And then in the sourcing season, you can add another 5, 6, 8, 10 hours, depending on what we're doing that week. And you might think that's an awful lot, and it is, but it is all at my home, or most of it is at my home. So my kids are always there. I oftentimes will work for 3-4 hours before anybody gets up. I'll get up early and do that, and then throughout the day I'll take breaks and go do stuff with my kids and stuff. We homeschool, so we do that as well. But like right now, I'm working right now, so it doesn't seem like it because I'm gonna see my boy in a minute. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna edit a video while I'm sitting there. So it's work, but it's not work like you got to be at work and you're on the clock and you can't just stop any minute you want. Sold this sweet vintage film sealed lot of 10 Konica film, and this is the second lot, or the second one of these. We had like 10 of these 10 packs, and we sold it for $55 plus shipping. All right, taking a break from editing for just a second. I got to say hi to Turner, but he shooed me away. He's like, I'm still practicing. We're not supposed to talk to you while we're practicing. Like, I haven't seen you in 3 days, buddy. But I get it. All right, here is the question. Another kind of tax-ish question. On one video, you mentioned that you don't track the price per item. And I mentioned that earlier in this one too. You just track money in, money out. How do you account for unsold inventory when taxes are due? My CPA always asks for that number. Thanks, Kevin. All right. So again, not a tax expert. So there you go. It sounds to me like you're using the accrual method, and that is what your CPA is asking for, because you are not counting the cost of goods until the item is sold. So in that case, you know, you inventory stuff as well, and you can write it out, and you got to keep track of all that stuff. Cash in, cash out. If I buy $10,000 in merchandise and I sell $10,100, you're only paying taxes on $100 of that, right? I mean, you're not, but you get the point. So there's no need to answer that question. What is your inventory cost of goods for your inventory? Because if I buy something today and I sell something else tomorrow, that's using the cash method, even though that thing is still sitting in my inventory. It's just basically how much money's coming in, deduct how much money you spent that year, essentially, and deduct all the fees and all the other stuff that goes with it. So I would highly suggest to look up some information on YouTube about the cash versus accrual method. And it sounds to me like you're using the accrual method, and I highly advocate for the cash method. Just a side note, my Reseller Genie supports both cash and accrual methods. And like I said, I highly recommend the cash method, but you can decide for yourself. They also have a tutorial setting, you know, once you get in there, it basically asks you questions about your business, and then it automatically sets stuff up for you. Well, not automatically, you got to input some stuff, but you get the point. It's super easy compared to the way it used to be. I tell you what, you should go check it out if you're nervous about this stuff, and use code Commonwealth, my Reseller Genie link below, myresellergenie.com, and use code Commonwealth 15% off. Last sale of the day is just a run-of-the-mill sale for us, $766, I think, for an NWO beanie skull cap thing. So anyway, I know today was a different sort of video. There'll probably be, I don't know, 6 or 8 of these this year, so we can keep that store open and not have to get that thing rerunning again and lose out on sales because we'll be gone. This one we could have got away with shutting it down for 1 day because I have 2-day shipping. I don't want to shut it down at all. I don't want to disrupt anything. I wanted it to keep going because we're trying to hit those goals. Let me know what you think about my answers down below. Appreciate you stopping by, and I can't wait to see you next time.